A Beanie's story began on a day like any other, under the vast cloudless sky that stretched endlessly above her village. The sun was a molten coin, heavy and golden hanging, low above the thatched rooftops and the red clay earth. The air shimmered with heat, and the distant hum of insects in the heart of this village surrounded by the wild breathing jungle stood a small school, its walls painted with faded murals of animals and ancestors, its windows open to the breeze, its yard scattered. With the laughter of children, A Beanie was 8 years old and small for her age, with skin the color of polished ebony and eyes wide as the moon. She wore her hair in neat plaits, each tied with a different colored bead, and her dress, a hand-me-down from her older sister, was patched but clean. She was a quiet child, given to watching rather than speaking, and her teachers often found her staring out the window as if listening to something only she could hear. That day, the lessons ended as the shadows grew long. The other children, chattering and jostling, gathered their things and ran out to meet their waiting parents. The teachers, eager to return to their own homes, locked the doors and windows, calling goodbye to the last stragglers. But Abby's parents did not come. They had gone to the market in the next village, delayed by the flat tire on their old bicycle and the slow, winding road. At first, Abby did not mind. She sat on the steps, swinging her legs, humming a song her grandmother used to sing. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. The village quieted one by one. The other children vanished down the dusty paths, their laughter fading into the evening air. The teachers left their voices trailing behind them. The schoolyard emptied, and the world seemed to hold its breath. A Beanie waited. The shadows crept closer, thickening at the edges of the jungle. The birds grew silent somewhere. A monkey screeched, and the wind carried. The scent of earth and growing things. Night fell quickly as it does in the tropics. A sudden curtain of darkness pierced only by the cold, bright gaze of the stars. She called out once, her voice small and unsure. There was no answer. The school was locked tight. The windows shuddered against the night. The village was a distant glow far across the fields. The jungle pressed close, alive and restless. A Beanie was alone. She curled up on the steps, hugging her knees to her chest. She tried to be brave as her mother had taught her, but the night was full of strange noises, the whisper of leaves, the snap of a twig, the distant howl of something unseen. The moon rose silver and silent, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. Time slipped by slow, and heavy sleep tugged at her, but fear kept her awake. She closed her eyes and remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell of the spirits that lived in the forest, the ancestors who watched over their descendants, the creatures that walked between worlds when the veil was thin. A Beanie shivered. She was not sure she believed in spirits, but tonight the world felt different, older, deeper, as if she had stumbled into a place where anything was possible. It was then that she heard it. A soft, rhythmic sound, like footsteps on dry leaves. She held her breath, heart pounding. The sound grew closer, deliberate and slow. A Beanie pressed herself against the wall, peering into the darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and thin, draped in a cloak woven from leaves and shadows. Its face was hidden behind a mask made of bone, carved with swirling patterns that seemed to shift in the moonlight. The mask's eye holes were empty and dark, but A Beanie felt its gaze settle on her ancient patient, and knowing she wanted to scream to run, but her legs would not move. The figure raised a hand palm open, fingers long and delicate. It beckoned her. A Beanie did not know why, but she stood. She felt pulled by something older than fear, a thread that tugged at her heart. She took a step forward, then another. The figure turned and glided toward the jungle, moving without sound. A Beanie followed her bare feet, whispering over the grass. They crossed the schoolyard, passed beneath the twisted limbs of the great baobab tree, and entered the jungle. The trees closed around them, shutting out the moon. The air was thick and cool, filled with the scent of moss and rain. The path was narrow barely, visible winding deeper and deeper into the forbidden forest land the elders said was sacred, where the ancestors slept. A Beanie's fear faded, replaced by a strange calm. She did not look back. They walked for what felt like hours, the only sound the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. The figure never spoke, but A Beanie felt its presence, protective, watchful, like a shadow at her side. At last they came to a clearing. The moonlight spilled down, silvering the ground in the center of the clearing stood a circle of stones, each carved with ancient symbols. The air was heavy with silence, as if the world itself was listening. The figure stopped at the edge of the circle. It turned to A Beanie, its bone mask gleaming for a moment. They stood facing each other, the child and the spirit, the living and the dead. Then slowly the figure removed its mask. Beneath was a face both familiar and strange. A woman's face, dark and beautiful, her eyes deep as wells. Her hair was braided with shells and beads, and her skin was marked with patterns of ash. She smiled, and A Beanie felt a warmth spread through her, as if she had been wrapped in a blanket. The woman knelt and held out her hands. A Beanie stepped into her embrace, and the world shifted. She saw visions, flashes of memory and dream. She saw the village as it was, long ago before the first hut was built, when the land was wild and free. She saw her ancestors dancing around fires, singing to the stars. She saw herself a thread woven through the tapestry of generations. She saw the spirits tall and silent watching over the living. She saw the dangers that lurked in the shadows, the things that waited for the careless and the lost. She saw the love that tied her to her family even when they forgot her. The woman spoke, her voice soft as wind in the grass. "You are not alone, A Beanie. You are never alone." A Beanie wept, though she did not know why the woman wiped her tears. Her touch gentle. "You are. Marked child, you have been chosen." A Beanie nodded, though she did not understand. The woman stood and placed the bone mask on A Beanie's head. It was heavy, but it fit, as if it had always belonged to her. The world grew quiet, and A Beanie felt herself slipping away, falling into darkness, into dreams. She awoke at dawn, curled in the circle of stones. The jungle was silent, the air cool and damp. The bone mask lay beside her, its empty eyes staring into the sky. A Beanie stood and walked back, through the forest, guided by a path she did not remember taking. The village was waking, smoke rising from the cook fires. voices drifting on the breeze. Her parents were searching, calling her name. Their faces drawn with worry and guilt when they saw her. They ran and gathered her in their arms, weeping with relief. But A Beanie did not speak. She stared past them. Her eyes distant in her hand, she held a piece of charcoal. Days passed. A Beanie would not talk, would not eat. She spent her time drawing strange symbols and swirling patterns. Scenes of the forest and the spirits that lived within the other children whispered. Afraid, the elders watched. Troubled, a week went by before she spoke. Again, her voice was soft, distant, as if coming from far away. She told them nothing of what she had seen. But at night, when the moon was high and the wind whispered through the trees, A Beanie would sit by the window drawing symbols. No one understood. Marks of protection, of memory of things. Lost and found, the village changed, though no one could say how the jungle seemed less threatening, the nights less cold. The elders spoke of a blessing, a sign that the ancestors watched over them. A Beanie grew silent and strange, marked by the spirits. She walked the edge of the forest unafraid, her eyes always searching the shadows. And sometimes when the wind was right, she would hear a voice, soft and kind, like the rustle of leaves. You are not alone. A Beanie, you are never alone. So the story spread, whispered from mouth to mouth, carried on the wind the tale of the girl who was left at school, but found by spirits first, and in the heart of the jungle. The ancestors smiled.